actor, comedian, and host of the I Am Rapaport Stereo podcast, a legend in the game and friend of the show. Michael Rapaport, what is good, man?
Everything is good. Everything is good. Thanks for having me.
So you're back in Portland performing at the Helium Comedy Club Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Last time we talked, it was your first time performing in PDX. What do you remember about Portland?
Just the people, great food, beautiful city. I had a great time the last time I was here. It feels like, so much has changed in the world since I've been in Portland. But I'm looking forward to being back. I'm looking forward to having a great weekend of shows at the Helium Comedy Club and, checking out the city and getting my feet on the ground and just trying to get to know Portland a little bit more.
It's a trip. You mentioned just how things have changed in just a couple of years, man. But now to have that opportunity to be back here again, what can people expect from you this time?
People can expect fantastic shows all weekend at Helium. I'm coming in hot. There's so much to talk about, and obviously I got a lot to say about all sorts of things. So I'm expecting a great crowd, and I'll try to give the best shows that I possibly can, fully disruptive. I like to talk about myself because I feel like if you're going to talk trash, you got to talk about yourself first. I talk about, what's going on in the world. I talk about being married. I talk about being a father. And everything in between. I talk to the audience. I like to, mess with them a little bit, see what they have to say. Like I said, I'm sure they're going to be great crowds for great shows.
And you mentioned there, King of Trash Talk. I'm a sports guy. I'm a sportscaster here at Channel 8. So, I've got to pick your brain and talk ball for a minute, if that's cool with you. And
let's do it.
I know you're good at putting together lists, top 5, top 3. So let's start with Trash Talk, man. Who is on your Mount Rushmore or top 3 NBA trash talkers of all time, man?
Well, Gary Payton has got to be, if not number 1, he's on the list. Obviously, you guys know him from when he played there in college and then his professional career. Gary Payton is number 1, or definitely on the list. Larry Bird was allegedly a fantastic trash talker. Who did it at an extremely high level. And then I would have to go with the great Kobe Bryant, who would do it in a more discreet way. But he had a lot to say, even when he wasn't, doing it where the cameras could catch him. So I would go with those guys off the top of my head.
Oh, that's fantastic. And a lot of people here are going to be pleased to hear that because they know all about Gary Payton from his days at Oregon State. So have you ever...
He was the dude. I mean, Gary Payton, talk about being, a stand-up comic and good shows. Gary Payton could easily, be doing shows at Helium Comedy any weekend he wants. He's hilarious.
Do you remember anything from your time being at the Moda Center and watching a Trailblazers game in person? I know you mentioned the players who were there and whatnot. What did you think of the atmosphere?
Loved it. I loved it. I grew up, a fan of the NBA. And, when I was a young kid, watching, even just the highlights. I don't remember watching the games, honestly, of Bill Walton, playing against Doc. I would just catch the highlights. But, then, in the 80s, Clyde Drexler was so big in college. And then, his career and that whole era and them going against Jordan. And then, of course, the Rasheed and that whole crew and the Mighty Mouse, years. I always loved Portland. I've always rooted for Portland. I've always been a fan. I mean, there's been so many great players that have come out of there. And, what I remember being just the fans, how into it they are and how nice, the people of Portland were to me, saying what's up to me. I really like Portland. I like the vibe of Portland. I like the city. The air. I was there, in the wintertime. I'm looking forward to the nice, crisp, cold weather of Portland, to be totally honest.
Oh, that's dope. And I remember you mentioning, you're obviously an NBA fan, and Damian Lillard's had all those big shots, and it's crazy, like you mentioned, to think now he's the vet. He's the dude that all the yeah, he's tapping the wrist. All the young players now. The Blazers have one of the youngest teams in the NBA now. And I'm wondering, is it all star power, Michael? Is it How did the Blazers become relevant? Is it just straight up winning? How did they become relevant out on the East Coast? Do people talk about the Blazers at all?
I mean, everybody talks about Dame Lillard. I think it's just winning. I think it's not necessarily stars. You need great players, and obviously the great players are the stars. But, I guess Jaylen Brown, I don't think he's a star. Jason Tatum, I think, is a star. Jaylen is I think a little level below. I think you need great players. Obviously Giannis is a super duper star, and then he's got the cast around him, and they become stars, through winning. It ain't easy, if it was easy to create these great players, they don't grow on trees. But like I said, I feel like Chauncey is getting them, in shape. Obviously health is an issue. And it's the luck of the draw, the luck of the draft, the luck of the trades, and keeping ankles, elbows, and toes, healthy throughout the season.
This year at our station, we started a fantasy football league. It's been a while, a few years since we actually did it, and it's been a lot of fun. It's brought a lot of people together.
Now we're talking.
Yeah,
now we're
man.
talking.
And I know you've been into it too, so I got to know what makes a proper fantasy football league.
Trash talk. Listen, you could put money, but without the trash talk and the interaction, what are we doing it for? It's really a juvenile game for a bunch of grown-up, juvenile, adult kids, whether it's girls, boys, men, women in the league. There has to be interaction. There has to be screaming, yelling, highs, lows, and humiliation, and verbal intercourse. Without that, why are you playing fantasy football? That's rule number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Who is MVP, man? At least with your team. Who's been like the dude that has saved your team this year?
Well, I'm going to be honest. My team is full of potential MVPs. I have Tyreek the Freak, Tyreek Hill. I have CMC of the San Francisco 49ers, and my shocking possible MVP is Josh Jacobs, who was left for dead. Nobody wanted Josh Jacobs. He is a family member. What he's done this season, he is a bruiser. I love him. I liked him when he was a rookie. I've continued to like him through the highs and lows of his young career. But that one game where he had that 86-yard run in overtime versus the Seahawks, and it seemed like it took forever, and he was just giving me my points and my yardage. And I'm telling you, it was like the world stopped, and I was with Josh Jacobs. As he broke through that hole, I broke through that hole. I was experiencing it with him. So he might be my MVP.
It's hilarious you say that, man. Josh Jacobs has turned my season around here at our KGW Channel 8 Fantasy League. So that is hilarious that you said that. I felt that in your soul on that one, man. So my last question for you, Michael, and I'll let you off the hook here, but just what is it like to do stand-up, to do it live? I mean, because you've done TV, you've done movies, you've done everything in between. So why do you still like to do this? What's that feeling like? How's it different?
Stand-up comedy is different from everything else because the interaction, the immediacy, the unpredictability, you never know what you're going to get. The audience, their energy, my energy. For me, so much of it is spontaneous, and there's nothing like it. Acting in front of a camera is incredible, and I love that. I'm always going to love that. Podcasting is great. But there's nothing like, the immediacy of stand-up comedy. And I never go out there haphazardly. Like it's never like sort of like you're meandering on stage to do stand-up comedy. There's always that buzz of excitement for me when I perform live.
There's no doubt we feel it, Michael. It's good to have you back here in Portland again, performing at the Helium Comedy Club here in PDX on the 8th, 9th, and 10th.